I'm on the wrong.
There we go. There we go. Community. Hi, everyone that's just joining in. I'm just about to get started. Okay, and I see you. And you. Okay. Oh, is there an echo?
Yeah, I need to turn my volume down. Yeah. Turning the volume down.
Yeah. Do you hear the echo still?
No.
Okay, pause. Let me just pause it and get some headphones really quick. Maybe that will help. Get up. Hello, those on Facebook. Just getting us started, but you guys can chat and show us your favorite drink or link your favorite drink. I have some rosé, but I'm not drinking it because I'm on a diet. But if you are, this is Lady Night, so we want you guys to enjoy yourselves and get prepared to learn how sexual health is and everything. So let me see if there's an echo. Sorry, I'm just going to get these headphones to see if there's a better audio. Okay. So pause back. Okay, I don't hear an echo with the earphones now.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you guys for joining in.
You hear an echo?
So we're just going to go ahead and get started since all of you guys are here. So thank you guys again for joining in. I am Jalen Lane. I am a campaign ambassador for sexual health and everything. This campaign is designed to decrease the stigma around conversations surrounding sex. So that's why we have Nia today, so we can join the conversation. This is Girls Night. We privy this conversation about supporting our friends in relationships and through their sexual health. So I just want to go over some quick functions today. So we have our Facebook live up, and you guys can comment any questions or add to the discussion. We want you guys to be interactive the entire session. We want you guys to interact with us. There will be 2 randomized guest winners. So we pick these winners randomly. We want you guys to engage with us through this discussion. It's not just me and Nia talking the entire time. So please comment and please ask questions. You can ask questions in the question link on the Instagram and also in the comment section on Facebook if you're on Facebook.
Jalen, I think the Instagram live is paused.
It is? Okay. Come back in. Yeah, exit out and now I'm coming back in.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna.
I'm coming back in.
I'm gonna request a joint.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's better. It's not echoing. Or is it echoing still?
Turn my volume down. Okay. You should be good.
Y'all, we are practicing social distancing, so please bear with us. If it's easier for you to join on Facebook, please join on Facebook. If it's better for you to be on here on Instagram, thank you. So, like I was saying, we want to engage with you guys during this time and continue to start the conversation surrounding STIs and the stigma, so we can decrease stigma and decrease incidents around these rates as well. So again, we want you guys to comment in the comment section or comment here on Facebook. We will be answering questions. So I do have Nia Sutton here. Nia is a certified health education specialist. She has her MPH, actually recently graduated from Georgia State University. She has a long history of STI and sex education advocacy. She started in high school, and I let her tell more of her story, but she is starting a sexual health education storytelling podcast soon. So thank you again, Nia, for coming on. And you can go ahead and tell us more about yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jalen. I always have a hard, weird time talking about myself and bragging on myself, but you said a lot of the things, and I have been doing this work for almost 11 years now. And so it's really exciting to see that it's continuing and it's growing, and more Black women are getting involved in leading sexual health work. So I'm excited. And thank you for also mentioning Birds, Bees, and Teas. It's a sexuality education and storytelling podcast that will be coming to you soon. You all can follow my social media pages for the podcast at Birds, Bees, Teas on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also follow my personal pages at Angie Africana.
Yes, always dropping gems on Twitter. So I just want to do a quick icebreaker with you all. I want you guys to think of a secret, maybe one of the biggest secrets that you have. And I don't want you to comment this secret. Please don't tell me your biggest secret, but I want you to think about what it would take for you to share that secret with someone. So what would it take for you to share a secret with someone? Okay, so someone said it's still an echo.
Let's see.
I muted the
Okay, what about
let me know if you still establish trust. Okay, I like that. And you guys will still let me know if there's still echo. You guys let me know if you still hear echo. I don't hear it on my phone anymore. Okay.
establish trust?
No echo now. Thank you. I know that's annoying. Okay, so I saw someone say establish trust. Thank you for letting me know. No echo. Thank you. Okay. So what would it take for you to share a secret with someone? So think of one of the biggest secrets that you have, and let us know what it takes for you to share that secret with someone. Thank you for joining. I just see that I am Garland. I hope I said that right. Got a lot of people tuning in. And so thank you for joining in, everyone. Okay, y'all all joining in. Thank you guys for joining. So we were just doing a quick icebreaker, and we wanted to see what would it take for you all to share a secret with someone? Someone to establish trust. Anything else?
I'll add one. I think that my thing with sharing secrets is usually me getting over my own like fears of being judged or, someone, telling someone else or something like that. So that's a lot of the time of me getting over my own stuff.
I like that. That kind of ties into what Antoinette said. Loyalty. And then I am Nick. I'm so sorry. Said knowing that they won't pay me. Yes, not being judged. And I would like to add, I would want one person I'm sharing with also share their secret with me. So it's like, okay, if you come out to the world, so we both know everybody now. Thank you for joining, Danny. Okay, so now I'm gonna go kind of get into so I see Tambra said being in some type of relationship. That's the one. Because tonight's all about girlfriends. So being in some type of relationship, whether we're friends, someone said, right, or whether we're in a romantic relationship. So friendship or whether we're in a romantic relationship. I definitely like those choices. I would tell y'all how I know Nia and why she's here today. Because first she didn't know this, and I just doing her good work. So Nia and I went to North Carolina University for undergrad. We graduated with a degree in health. She graduated 2 years before me because she was class 2015. And I was class 2017. So as an incoming freshman, I was always Nia around doing advocacy. She did a lot of storytelling. She did a lot of storytelling. Also poetry. Always involved in the poetry science. And she also was a peer educator for an organization called Project Safe, which was an organization to decrease HIV and STIs on campus. So I saw her one day because Project Safe was giving out gift cards to get tested. And if you know me, you know I love Target. And Target was the incentive that they were giving out. So I told her it kind of made me motivated me to continue to get tested because I saw someone advocating for something that I was interested in, such as getting tested and also being in control and responsible regarding my sexual health. So till then, every time Project Safe had a test event, I would always wear a method with text information and, get your results. I just love that whole method that they had going. And also the gift card. She didn't know that she motivated me. So far, she motivated me. I want to ask Nia how to get involved with advocacy, sexual health advocacy, and her works in STI prevention and public health.
Yes. So thank you, Jalen, for sharing that because I think oftentimes we need reminders, especially as Black women, when we're doing this work and we can get easily derailed. We need that motivation to hear that our work is impactful and that we are actually motivating others. So I appreciate that so much. I got involved in sexual health starting at the age of 16. I worked at an organization in Washington, D.C. called Metro Teenage, and it's now Walker Whitman Health or Whitman Walker Health, one of them. But I was a peer educator and I did a lot of HIV prevention and a lot of people call me the condom girl or the condom lady because I would be always around different neighborhoods in DC passing out condoms and stuff like that. And at that time, I was just looking for a job. And I saw Metro Teenage, which was that they had an opening, which was the job where my mom worked as an HIV counselor when I was growing up. So that felt familiar to me. And also I knew that, that would be a supportive environment for me, considering like how that impacted my mom and how that led to us having conversations about sex and sexuality in our household. So I just knew at that time that I was going to be a meteorologist. That's what I was going to go to school and do. But my experience working as a peer educator during my teenage years really shaped it differently for me to want to pursue public health and sexual health in my careers going on. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm happy. I love this question of why I got into this. Because that's one reason, but why I stay in it continues to grow, because I'm learning so much as I continue my work in this field, and just reflecting back on how I was sexualized as a child for my body features and, just all those things. And just as a young Black woman, it really motivates me to continue to do this work and take ownership of it.
Absolutely. And I definitely resonate with being sexualized as a child for our curvy Black bodies. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I kind of want to go into the different types of relationships. So I call this the discovery self-check, because I always say you should check yourself first before you get into any relationship with anybody. So I want to identify different types of relationships. So what are the different, and I want to ask you, Nia, but I also want to ask the audience, what are the different types of relationships that you can have? And Nia, you can go ahead first.
Okay, so automatically when we think about relationships, we always think about like intimate relationships or intimate partner relationships. So that's one there, of course. But we also need to be more, my ring light is being a little ratchet right now. It's like a tumble. But yeah, we also need to be more considerate of how every relationship or how every person we know, we have a relationship with them. So people fall under acquaintances, people fall under friends, people fall under close friends, people fall under best friends. Some people that's your work friend, your work sis. So I like to call them. So there are a lot of different types of relationships that, we need to evaluate when we're thinking about all the people we know.
Yes, absolutely. And I have that Tambra just said sexual, romantic, platonic, familiar. So yeah, you definitely have families or relationships as well. Thank you, Plain Jane, for just joining us. So yeah, those are the different types of relationships. And I want to think about the benefits of those relationships, because of course, relationships are supposed to have some type of level of reciprocity, like in the Lauryn Hill X Factor song. She talks about reciprocity a lot. But what does that mean? What are the different benefits that we can benefit from relationships? Because when I think of relationships, I also think about, like, when you say your coworkers, that can be like a networking situation where you are able to level up in different career-wise. But when we think about our girlfriends, what are the benefits of having a girlfriend or a close friend that is like a platonic relationship, like Tambra just said?
Yeah, there are so many benefits of that. And I really am so grateful for the friends and the friendships that I have, because I find so many things in them. I find sisterhood, even though I have two sisters of my own. And I find like my turn up partners in there, my travel buddies are within that friend group as well. I just find so many things within my friends. It's so many benefits that you can have. My friends are also my teachers. I learn so much from them, and they also are my checkers, because they will definitely call me out. So.
Yes, I'm going to come back to the call you out part of your friendship, because that is very important, that your friends call you out. It's not all daisy and roses. We just not just got to be turning up. You should be benefiting and growing from these relationships that you have. So, and I also want to kind of talk about, how do you identify and receive feedback from these friends. So when you think about your personal friends circle, how do you receive feedback? Because when you talk about, that them checking you, how are you receiving feedback from your friends?
One thing I want to work on, and I want to preface this with saying that I am in no way like the friend expert or the friend of the year or anything like that. So one thing I want to work on is like soliciting feedback from my friends on, things that they think about me or things that I'm doing. But my friends don't really struggle in that department of, keeping it real and telling you how it is. And so that I appreciate that, even though, I'm a Cancer, so I can be super sensitive, super defensive. We don't leave that where it is, but, I still appreciate them being honest and transparent with me, when they feel something or, if I'm telling them something, they know that it's always a two-way street. It's always going to be a conversation because they're going to, have some feedback for me.
Absolutely. Ashley just wrote emotional. You know what? I get it because I'm a Libra, and I don't know if this is a Libra trait or this is just an only child syndrome, because you say you grew up with two sisters. I grew up with a sister, and then she moved with her dad. So I kind of mainly grew up as the only child. And the thing about that is when you grow up as the only child, you don't get a lot of feedback, which is just basically, you get the feedback from your parents, but you don't get feedback from, your sisters and things like that. So I struggled a little bit receiving feedback. I don't know because I'm just sensitive and that's the only child syndrome in me, or because I'm a Libra. I don't know, but I know that's something I did struggle with. So we want to talk about how to make sure that you're following the right protocols when it comes to receiving feedback and learning and growing with your friends. So now I want to talk about, now that we did our self-check, I want to talk about those around you, because you want to always, again, check yourself first before you bring anyone into your own situation. So what are some protocols to follow when you see a shift in your relationships or your friendships?
Yeah, I am like a big proponent on kind of like addressing it then at that moment when you feel it. I think that sometimes when we sit on things and think on things too much, and I do this too, so I'm not like always 100% one way, depending on the situation. But when we sit on things too much, we kind of like create our own narrative of what it is. We start to try to answer our own questions, which are fueled by the thoughts that we already have. So we know what answer we're going to get, right? So I'm like a big proponent on like, okay, I'm noticing this shift. I'm noticing this difference. I'm noticing this change. And let me just go ahead, and if I'm not going to ask you about it, I'm going to at least let you know that I am noticing this and I acknowledge that it's happening. That's a big key that I use in my intimate relationship, but I also use that in my friendships as well. Like, okay, I noticed this girl and I'm feeling some type of way, or, let me let you know how I feel. So.
Right. So I think that's important because when you address it, thank you for joining, Monty. And Dosa Desi just said she agrees totally. I can say that's something I definitely had to learn of how to address things when things happen, because and you guys can chime in too. Someone said, Tambra said, absolutely. You guys can let me know what you think about that, because what are some protocols that you follow when it's a shift in your relationships? I personally, I know this is not good, and we're going to be transparent, like Nina said, but sometimes I just distance myself. I don't even say anything at all. I'll start distancing myself. I'll start acting some way. Some people say it's acting funny. I'll start acting funny, and I know that's not healthy. So we want to build some healthy protocols within our relationships so we can have these tough conversations and navigate and grow within our friendships. So you guys can let me know in the comment section, what are some protocols that you all follow when it comes to seeing a shift in your relationships.
And while y'all are typing, I'll add this in. And maybe, like I said, I'm not the perfect friend and it might not be the best thing to do, but I always, I try to solicit another opinion as well, because I know that I can, like, if I'm feeling some type of way about something, then I'm feeling some type of way and I'm flared up about it, where, maybe I can have like a more level-headed person to, like ground me in what I'm thinking about. and provide me with some insight. It just allowed me to see it from another person's perspective so that I can like calm down off of it, and go into addressing the situation with my friend.
Absolutely. I think a third opinion is definitely important to have. Okay, so Leo Virgo rising just said, I second, and checking in helps me from going too far too fast. Absolutely. You can say the wrong thing and it can be very hurtful. And I definitely experienced that. Tambra just said, I check in. I'm super open with people about my feelings. Yeah. Okay, so Gago Diva, please forgive me for the names. I'm like struggling. So say taking ownership. Yes, accountability is important. Also try to process feelings and take a step back. So yeah, sometimes it's okay to withdraw and step up to unload on my friends, so outsiders as well, and confiding. I want to tread lightly. Okay, so yeah, tread lightly with your confiding in different people. Okay, I get you. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with moving to asking for advice in that sense, or asking for guidance in the situation, or just kind of venting, because sometimes you just need a vent of what's going on. So I want to go. So now we're going to kind of get into some juicy things. Because I know that we just talked about a shift in relationships and having those hard conversations. So I told you guys that I kind of knew of Nia because I was always getting, well, not always getting, but regularly getting tested as I was supposed to be, because I was sexually active at the time. And I will talk about the whole phase. So oftentimes we kind of define the whole phase as a phase when you're not in a relationship and you may have multiple partners, or how do you define the whole phase, Nia?
I would say that the whole phase is whatever the person, whatever you define it as, because hoe is very subjective. Being a hoe is a subjective thing. We all have different definitions of it. And so I would define it as however you are expressing your sexuality at that moment in your life, at that phase in your life.
I like that. So if your friend is expressing themselves very sexually in a different phase of their life, opposed to what you knew originally, how can you support your friends during this quote unquote hoe phase?
Okay, I love that question. For so many different reasons. I like that you pointed out that, you notice that your friend is making a transition with their sexuality. So I definitely think that if you and your friend had that type of relationship, that it's perfectly fine and okay to check in on that. Like, oh girl, I noticed that you've been dating more, or you've been seeing more guys. Like, what's up with that? I think it's definitely okay to acknowledge that you notice that it's happening, and then allow that person to express where they are and how they got there and what they're going through in that moment. As far as supporting them, support what they say, support what they tell you. And oftentimes, like, we have our own morals and our own values and our own standards and our own boundaries that are very different from even the people who are closest to us. And so you have to really check in on like your judgment. We all make judgments because our brains do that without our permission. They're going to judge something, but checking in on those judgments and making sure that, okay, am I being a judgy friend or am I being a supportive friend?
I love that. Are you being a judgy friend or are you being a supportive friend? And Leo Virgo rising. I cannot say that, in one setting, but just said without judgment for sure, and leave space for conversation. Yes, leave space for conversations. And I think the conversation that needs to be had is like, okay, well, are you being safe? Like, do you have condoms? Are you, making sure, like you say, you want to grow with your friends, and that can be a tough conversation if you haven't been having this conversation with your friend. But this is a close friend, someone that you confide in and have a long-standing relationship. I think it is important to check in and just, one, ask how they're doing and support them through that phase. So are they doing, getting tested? Are they using condoms and things like that? Do they know their partner status? Things like that. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Joseph Debbie said, tonight as I said, he said.
And I'm hollering right now because my mom joined on right when we started talking about her phase, like right at that moment. But yeah, and I love the points that you made about, just doing those things that we should be doing regularly anyway, whole phase or not. Taking control of your sexual health by getting tested and using whatever you define as protection and practicing those methods and upkeeping them. And I think another way to support your friends in that is to do those things with them. Like, we can go and get tested together. Like, let's go do this, and then we can go to brunch or whatever the case may be. That's definitely a way to do it. And like I said, I'm gonna mention it again because I don't want getting tested and using protection to be only associated with the hoe phase. That's definitely something that people, even in monogamous relationships, should do as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to I'm loving this. Oh, thank you. The photo lady of DC, thank you for joining in. So you guys can let me know in the comment section how you support your friends during their whole phase. I think it's important that we empower them with the correct knowledge and also support them and continue not to be judgy during that transition or that new phase of their life. Because we are all happy sexual beings, and we should definitely express ourselves in the way that we can, in the way that we want to. So now I want to get into girl code. And you guys can let me know also in the comment section, what are some of your girl codes? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm going to a story really quick. But while we're waiting for people, okay, so someone said, go with them before you judge them, even if you don't understand their ways. Oh, absolutely. Love that. Centering pleasure, what brings pleasure, and consensual, what we're focusing on. Exactly. I support the whole phase as long as you're being careful and aware. Yes, I love that. So now I want to go into girl codes, and I want you guys to write some of your girl codes in the comment section. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to go into a quick little story. Yes, I did get consent from my friends to share this story. So I want to talk about the group chat because when we think about our friendships and girls and our girlfriends and our circle, as some of us may call it, we talk about, we have like maybe a circle where we have a group chat with. And I know I have a group chat. I'm pretty sure you got a group chat. And there was one time, like a while ago, one of my friends in the group chat, hey y'all, my pussy broken. And we was just like, girl, I don't know what's going on. Like, wait, what do you mean my pussy is broken? So, it kind of got a little shaky because one of the friends was kind of projecting an experience on the friend. So I want to talk about group chat and maybe what's appropriate and kind of setting boundaries when it comes to sharing intimate details with our friends. So how do we create boundaries in our relationship?
Boundaries are so important. So important. Like every single day that that message resounds in my life. Like set your boundaries. And I think something that I definitely didn't learn until later in life, and also that I think that a lot of people are still struggling with, is that even with the people closest to you, you can still have boundaries. In your intimate relationship, you should have boundaries. Even with your best friends who you know for however long, they're still so important. And so I think the first step is defining them for yourself. Before you try to communicate them to other people, define what your boundaries are, and then define like, okay, well, why is this a boundary for me? Why is this important to me? What am I trying to protect? And what am I trying to, and what all do I want to share? What do I want to be transparent about? I think that those are like the first steps. And then find your way to communicate those boundaries. And something else important is that boundaries change and boundaries shift all the time. And so it can be very difficult to establish a new boundary in an old relationship or a relationship that has been around for a long time. You have to get creative. You need to get creative in making sure that you are communicating these new boundaries that you have with your friends, who you have longstanding relationships with.
Absolutely. I love that you said creating a boundary in yourself. So I want to go back to the Danny said hello. So yeah, she definitely agreed with what you said. So I want to go back to some of the girl codes that people mention here on Instagram. Tambra said, "We don't mess with each other past guys or girls." Love that one. I think that's a universal one. But sometimes it's not. So it's important that you establish that girl code, because sometimes you have to say it. Because some people really don't.
Yes.
Web said, I think along with keeping them cognizant of their physical health, making sure that they are also emotionally healthy is important too. Are you doing it because you want to or because of something? So I guess that goes back to the previous question. Making sure that your emotional health is in check as well during the whole phase. Dom Smith said, when you have to know friends to go to for sure. Absolutely.
I love that.
Those of designation, don't go to your friends when you get into a relationship. So that's important. I often hear about that stereotype when your friend gets in a relationship, just disappears. So it's important that you still keep in contact with your friends, because when it goes wrong, you're going back to the friend. So it's important to keep up with your relationship and just have some time management during that process. So Dom also said, don't bring your friends when you get into and don't bring your man to all the friend gatherings either.
Yes. Yes.
When I think about conversations, I think of one big one. Don't share my information with everybody.
That's a big one for me personally. I don't think, if I'm telling details maybe in the group chat, like, oh, my vagina's working, and you decide to talk about that with other people, I think that's kind of, that's a boundary cross within our relationship, because I share something with you intimately. Go said, my grandma used to say, don't tell your friends everything. Some stuff is between you and yours. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, Monty said, keep stuff private. You can't share everything with everyone. Yeah, so look, that's a common one. And then I Am Garland said, yes, don't share your info with your partner. Yeah, you can't share everything with everyone. I think that's really important that we don't disclose everything with everyone. And if we do disclose, making sure that these are people that we trust, especially when it comes to our sexual health, that can be so intimate. And I feel like that's sometimes why stigma is created, because when we have these conversations, things can turn a different way, kind of in that story I talked about. So I want to talk about peer pressure a little bit. I know when we maybe I can say for myself that we may have been peer pressured into things. So how can we do, when we hear about peer pressure, we think about things negatively, but how can we practice positive peer pressure?
Oh, child. I'm probably a strong proponent of this. Like, I'd be trying to okay, girl, I always say this to my friends, and I don't even know why I try to preface it anymore, but I'm like, okay, I was trying to mind my business, but I can't. Let me drop this tidbit on you so that you can do this thing to elevate your life, because I want to see you win, and I need you to get on this, and do it tonight. So I always try to make it seem, I always try to acknowledge that I'm not trying to step on your toes, but let me go ahead and send you this job opening. Let me go ahead and put you on to something else. Yeah, that's how I do mine. my positive peer pressure. And I also do it by way of like inviting my friends to do things with me. So like how you mentioned the testing events, I will always try to like drag a friend with me to do things. And then also the house where I lived, I had, there were 4 of us there as roommates. And so where there are 4 of us, all our friends are there too. So it was like 8 of us that lived at that place. And I would keep a bowl of safer sex supplies like in the hallway or in the living room. So everybody know like, this is my way of encouraging you to do what you feel is best for your sexual health.
And when I think about peer pressure, because again, a lot of times people think peer pressure is very negative. I also give pleasure tips. We work in this field and we know that you can, a lot of times people think, oh, well, safe sex can be very boring. I don't want to do it, especially if you're in a relationship. And a lot of times I give them, you know, positive reinforcement or positive tidbits on sexual experiencing pleasure with condom usage or with protection. So like using a latex-free condom, using lube. Lube is your friend. Lube is your friend. And also, I don't know if you guys missed the conversation with Shawnee, but we'll have her back on again. Sex Stuff with Shawnee. She's amazing. She has she's one of the Black-owned sex shops here in the DMV area. So it's called Heart Desires if you want to follow her. But she gave a lot of good tidbits of how to experience your 5 senses while having sex. So using blindfolds, massage candles, using lube, getting to know yourself down there with toys, refills, and things like that. So I like when I hear that information from webinars and different people in this field, I always share that with my friends.
Absolutely. I'm like sending pages out of books that I read to the group chat, like, y'all, look at this. So,
when it comes to health, because a lot of times it can be very like scary. Like when I think about sexual health, sometimes like BV, that can be a common thing that people don't want to talk about because, oh, well, I don't want people to think. And I just like, you know, I always try to use positive wording and affirmation. So you guys can let me know in the comments, what are some ways that you, you guys already did. So someone said, Tambra said, pep talk, but always encourage and encourage with action. I love that. Monty XO said, be encouraging your friends level up. We all eat. I love that. We all eat. It's not one better than the other. We all need to help each other grow. Anybody else has anything to add to that? And thank you guys for joining Made in Francis, D-Fur, Crochet Kingpin, Rhina. I hope I said that right. Trust me, Jeff. I appreciate you all for tuning in. We're about to wrap up the conversation. So while you guys are marinated on some of your positive peer pressure, I want to talk a little bit more about our community before we get into the last part of today. Oh, sorry, came in late. It's the food. So this is ladies' night. We're talking about all things friendship, all things sexual health. So if you want to add any of your girl codes or also some of your positive peer pressure tactics, please let us know. Okay, so we're gonna do the collaborate and compete. We can all win. Love that. So before I get into some role play with Nia, I want to talk about so we have 20 people here. Thank you guys for joining and because it's almost an hour. So if you join the Chic community, there's so many free perks for the Chic community. We have our top socket here. I'm also wearing a shirt. Every person who joins the community gets these items. So it's a shirt, top socket. You guys know it's COVID-19 going on, so we do have a mask available for you guys. A lanyard for your keys, a sheet, kind of like so lip balm. You have some lip balms, and you all get these in your community box. So each week, if you refer a friend, definitely there's more perks of referring people to join Chic. So I definitely want you guys to join the community because we're gonna have more conversation. If you have any suggestions also with more topics that we should discuss or that you would like to hear from us more, please let us know by messaging us. So yes. Okay, so Left Eye Lay said, make it fun, always stay fun. Yes, I love that. Left Eye Lay is actually my best friend. Her best friend. She said, always make it fun and stay fun. And she talks about when we're in a group chat, she may say messages, and it's always kind of a funny meeting, but it's always encouraging as well. So I do appreciate you, best friend. And then Crochet Kingpin said, a word, let's chill, listen and learn tonight, or leave it. You want dudes to not be in the face. Okay. So now I'm gonna get into some role play with Nia. So I'm experiencing, and this is hypothetical. This is not actual. This is not real. Oh, okay. So Left Eye Lay said, my boyfriend said he would like a guy to be featured on the next Girl Talk. Okay, so we can get that going next time. Thank you. Okay. So this is hypothetical. So, hey, Nia, I'm experiencing an STI. And what should I do? What are some do's and don'ts? Like, I'm just letting you know that I'm experiencing an STI, and I'm scared. I don't know what to do. So how would you support me in this situation?
Okay. So the first thing I always do with my friends is ask them how they know that they have an STI, because we always think that something is something, because, all of our lives, like, we've been taught to be afraid of anything that is different or not what other people consider as regular, right? So if we see a bump or we get a certain smell or itch or something, we think we got something and we're going to die. And that's something that we have to constantly unlearn, because you are going to be okay. That's number one. So I always be like, okay, how do you know that? Are we sure? Okay. Have we talked to a medical professional about this? Okay. And then you are going to be okay. I think that that's the biggest thing to really stress with a friend, is that everything is going to be okay. It is not the end of the world. There is no death sentence with any STI that anyone experiences. And so reinforcing those things as well. So if your friend is having signs and symptoms and they're not sure, a good way to support them is to say, well, I'll go with you, or I'll drive you, I'll drop you off, I'll pick you up. Just being physically present is always a good way to be supportive to a friend, and just reassuring them that it's okay. A lot of times, something people feel with STIs is shame. We feel a lot of shame around that. We feel like we made the worst decision ever, and now we have to punish ourselves and limit our sexuality because, this experience happened. And so I think that a good thing to do is to just be supportive to your friend, and don't allow them to beat themselves up. Don't allow them to do that. Don't allow them to shame themselves and try to shame themselves out of the STI. It happened. We're going to go get treated for it, and we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. We're going to move on. It happens. And the biggest thing with STIs is the stigma around them, not the actual STI itself. We hinder ourselves and put ourselves in these tumultuous thought processes behind the stigma and not the actual infection. So I think those are good ways to do it. Keep your friend calm, be physically present, be emotionally present and supportive, and don't let your friends beat themselves up about it.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. And then I also want to stress too, and add to that, is asking for consent if you don't know how to support. So if you don't know how to support your friend in that situation, always ask for consent. Like, hey, I don't know how I can support you right now. Asking how you can support them, I think is a good option as well. And then also, if you need a third opinion, like say, for example, like you say your mom was an HIV counselor, asking for advice and asking for consent to seek that advice as well. So that's one thing that I wanted to add to that. Does anyone have any questions about what we talked about today? These lives will be saved, so you always can go back and watch these. And we do want you guys to join the community. You get a lot of perks with it. We're going to have a lot of great conversations coming up. Hopefully we'll have Nia back on again to talk about more birds, bees, and teas. So I'm excited about that, but you guys can add any additional questions or comments if you like.
I like what you said. Let me take a sip of water. I like what you said about getting consent, about how to support. And I think that that's something so important for both friends or for all parties to be considerate of. Like, one person can say, this is the type of support that I need. And then the other person can say, well, this is the type of support that I can offer. Because just because we're asking our friend for something doesn't mean that they can provide it for us. You know, my friend may not be available to go with me to the doctor's office, or they may not feel comfortable with doing that. But, you know, knowing how can we piece this together so that I'm getting what I need and you're giving me what you can give me too as a friend.
Absolutely. And we're getting a lot of likes on that. Tambra said, thank you, ladies, for opening up this conversation and the platform. We need more of these convos. And we'll be back, and it'll be fun. We'll have a happy hour. We're thinking about incorporating that. But we do want you guys to join the community because there are perks with being a part of the community. There's weekly newsletters. If you follow our Instagram or and Facebook page, we have our Myth Mondays where we debunk different myths that we heard when it comes to sexual health. And also Tip Tuesday to give you some tips on how to experience pleasure and to be sexually responsible. So thank you guys for joining on. We definitely appreciate it. Danny said this was awesome and so much needed. Thank you for joining in. If you want to know more about our community, it is hyperlinked in our bio. I do have it pinned to the screen. It is also pinned on Facebook as well. So, and you can, if you want to know more about Nia, where can they reach you again, Nia? If you want to just plug in.
Okay. Let me see if I can type it into comments. Okay, so I want you all to absolutely follow Birds, Bees, and Teas ASAP. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm trying to type it in here. Showing my age. Follow Birds, Bees, and Teas at Just Birds, Bees, on Instagram and Twitter. We will be launching very soon. And then you can also follow me at Angie Africana. It's my page that is pinned, and then with Birds, Bees, and Teas at the bottom.
Yes. So thank you again for joining us, Nia. We appreciate it. And we hope to see more of you and have more of these girl talks. I like the suggestions that you guys offered about bringing the male perspective in. I definitely think that's needed when we having these girls chat. So thank you so much.
Really, because I feel like men need to stay out of women's business.
Yeah, it is true. But I think it's important that we invite them so they can learn. I do think it's important that we invite them so they can learn, but definitely, guys, stay tuned because if you join the community, you get the perks of knowing what's coming up next and all the different things that we're offering as far as education and prevention and just perks in general. Like everybody loves free stuff. And thank you guys for participating because we did say 2 winners will be randomly selected for commenting and interacting with us. So I hope you guys were commenting. If not, now you know for next time. And we'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.